we had our back up against the wall. We had no income. We would start work at 5 o'clock in the morning and work until 11 p.m. at night.
That's Sam Hope. In June 2023, along with Jory Humphreys, he launched H People from nothing. By month 1, they were doing 16 new contract placements per month. In year 1, they did $8.2 million in revenue. And year 2, $15.5 million. So that's $25 million in turnover, and they did $1 million in EBITDA in their second year. They're Australia's number 2 fastest growing company. And on this week's episode of the RAG podcast, I got under the bonnet of how they've done it. But what I found out was pretty interesting. At the time of starting, Jory had a 1-year-old child and a pregnant wife. Sam was married, had a mortgage, and 2 young kids. And they were working 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday to Friday every single week. So I asked them, how did you actually scale this?
If it was just me and Sam battling it out and we didn't have any offshore support, we would have only made half the amount of placements. They've enabled us to deliver a better service.
So from day 1, they built an offshore team based in the Philippines. They have a model with 1 offshore resourcer supporting 1 onshore consultant. They have daily huddles, shared targets, and a real partnership culture. Their offshore guys handle resourcing, screening, compliance, whereas the onshore guys handle real relationships, new business, client interaction, and revenue. Now, most founders choose between growth and sanity and profit, whereas these guys have gone down the middle and chose leverage. Today, H People is 21 people, expanding nationally across Australia and incredibly profitable. And these guys are doing it in a way that almost no recruitment agency have done before. So this is a brand new episode of the RAG podcast with Jory Humphreys and Sam Hope, how they've built 25 million in 25 months through offshore leverage. Sam, Jory, welcome to the RAG podcast.
Thanks for having us on, Sean.
Appreciate you having us on. Thanks, John.
Absolute pleasure. It's early morning UK, evening in Brisbane, and we've been trying to get this in the diary for a number of months based on my problems and availability with internet and all sorts. So we finally got it, which I'm really pleased about. Guys, I've done you a quick introduction. I can never do it justice. I'll pick on you first, Sam, because it's always easier to pick on one person when there's 2. Could you give us a quick overview, really high level? I don't want any of the detail, the story, any of that. Just who you guys are today. In fact, you talk about Wingman, and then Sam can tell us who H People are.
Other way around, we'll go. Yeah. So I'll go on the H People side. So H People launched in June 2023. Just Sam and myself. Over the last couple of years, obviously grown quite rapidly. Now servicing blue collar manufacturing and logistics clients across Brisbane primarily. Over the last sort of 12 months, sort of expanded interstate into some other areas. Headcount wise, now we're at 21 staff over the last couple of years. And a lot of that success that we've had is because of the offshore team that we've integrated from the Philippines, which sort of leads into a little bit about the Wingman.
That's it. Yeah, we actually started a second business called Wingman Recruitment in September last year, and that was completely based off of the success that we've had over the last sort of 5 years integrating experienced remote recruiters from the Philippines into our daily lives. And as we've scaled H People, we've come up with a bit of a process where we hire an offshore recruiter first, and then we hire an onshore recruiter that's basically going to partner with that person and open up a new geographical area. So Wingman Recruitment is dedicated to recruitment-specific offshoring partner. So we actually help agencies integrate experienced offshore recruiters into their business so that their consultants or the agency owners can actually provide a better service to more clients by using that model.
Love that. So Wingman, I mean, it does what it says on the tin, right? I like it. I like it a lot. So let's go back a step and talk about, so obviously, Sam, you're from the UK. Jory, are you from Brisbane, Jory? Is that your...
Yeah, New South Wales.
New South Wales, right, cool. And you guys met at Synergy Recruitment, right? But you both, before, when I was doing my research, you both worked at Hayes in Brisbane. It looked like it was at the same time. So tell us what happened there.
Yeah, I suppose with Hayes, Big Blue Machine, I was there for 3 and a bit years. And I suppose like most people that in big agencies at times, you get to the point where constantly grinding, a bit of the team turning over. It got to a point where I thought I'm done with recruitment. So I exited from the recruitment industry altogether and went into an internal based position.
Really?
Yeah. So like it was more of an operations role. right as COVID happened. So I started there January 2020. Perfect time to start a new job as the world collapses. But it was fortunate enough that they kept me on. And then over a period of time, they started to boom towards the end of that year. And I started taking over their internal HR and contracts and so forth. But eventually things didn't sort of go to plan with promises that were initially made, which is where we sort of crossed paths at the next place, which is a pretty cool story where Sam sort of came into the picture at Hayes.
That's it. Yeah, I moved over to Australia as a backpacker in 2012. Got into the warehousing and logistics industry because it was a fairly low barrier to entry, and worked my way up within a business called Seeker Australia for 7 years. Decided that I wanted to actually get into recruitment, so applied for a job working the logistics blue collar desk with Hayes Recruitment. And it just so happened that I filled Jory's chair. So he finished on Friday and I actually started on Monday. So there was like,
So you didn't know the guy?
Didn't know the guy whatsoever. And then, as soon as I got there, everyone in the office was just saying, bloody hell, you and Jory would have got on together like a house on fire. It's a shame that you guys never met.
Why do you think they said that?
I guess we're just similar sort of age, like similar sort of banter. And yeah, they just said, you guys would have got on so well. And I never reached out to him, never spoke to him. And yeah, we didn't cross paths until I'd obviously left Hayes after a year and started.
Like you do something and they'd be like, oh, Jory would have done it like this. Then you're like, oh, piss off. No, I don't need to know what Jory would have done. Is that how it
Just a little bit behind on the fees, I heard.
Oh,
is that what it was?
Yeah. Oh, well done. Jory did it. Jory did an extra $1,000. You know that? Right? No joke. Now that sounds. I mean, I can relate to that as well in the fact that when I worked with my boss, she kept referring back to this guy that she'd worked with before that was similar. We didn't work together, but he ended up becoming a client of mine when I launched Toxo. And when I met him, I was like, yeah, I can see what she was saying, really. So I get it. So you then, who went to Synergy first? Was it you, Sam?
Yeah, so I cut my teeth in at Hayes, if you like. Learned what I needed to do. Became quite a big biller in the office, and then essentially resigned from Hayes and accepted an offer to start a brand new division at another business called Synergy Placements. Right. And historically, Synergy had only done sort of IT and government sort of contracting. So it was a brand new division. And we had set up all of the payroll systems, and it was a good opportunity, and learned a lot in that role for sure.
And you brought Jory into that business?
Yeah, so I grew it for about 6 months, I'd say. I brought on one onshore consultant. We were supported by 2 offshore, which was where I first ever started working with offshore. And we just got to a point where we were so job heavy. There was so much opportunity in Brisbane to take, that I actually decided to split up manufacturing and logistics as divisions. And we posted a Seek ad, of all things, looking for a division manager to manage the manufacturing arm. And Jory was the first person that applied. So it was actually money well spent on the Seek ad for once.
And you were like, I know this guy. I feel like I know this guy. So
the owner of the business rang me and said, have you heard of this person before? He says he worked at the same place as you. And I just said, hire him.
I've heard too much. I've heard too much. So Jory, what was going on in your world then? So were you naturally coming to the end of a role, that internal role?
Oh, I hadn't come to the end of the role, but I was I was so burnt out from my time at Hayes, and wanted to take more of an operational role at another manufacturing business, and sort of things weren't adding up in terms of promises that weren't delivered. And then at the time I was still a little bit bent from recruitment. I was like, I didn't really want to get back into the space just because I was so exhausted from my time at Hayes. And then I thought, fuck it, let's just put in a couple of applications into that space. Was that at the time? It was it was post the start of COVID. So this is 2021.
Did you interview someone on the level below? Well,
I did. So I put in a couple of applications for recruitment businesses, and I got two interviews. Both of them, ironically, were in the exact same building at different levels. So I interviewed on the same boardroom because it was a shared office, same boardroom on 2 different days. And then, just so happened, they put me in touch with Sam. at the time, and he was one that got me across the line to essentially sign with them. Tried to take him out for a coffee to pick his brain, but turns out he was in England at that time. So I had a bit of a chat to him when he was in England.
So in terms of the you both have an experience of working in that warehouse space, right? From the research. I mean, does that make a difference for you? Like, obviously, knowing, like, I'm sure after a while as a recruiter, it doesn't really matter what you did in the past. You just know the market you serve. But do you think it kind of cemented you in that space a little bit because you were one of the guys who'd done the job?
I guess from my side, like I'd spent 7 years working myself up from an agency store person all the way up to sort of a warehouse and logistics manager, where I actually used 2 or 3 recruitment companies consistently to build my warehousing teams nationally. So I understood the process. I understood thoroughly what was, involved in running a distribution center in a logistics environment. So I think when I sort of jumped over the fence from operations in logistics to recruiting logistics positions, I felt a lot more confident because I could go into a business and speak their lingo. I understood what systems they were using. I understood all the processes. I understood what different roles there were. So I got really, really good buy-in from the clients that I was handed down. And then I was pretty keen just to start ripping the phones. I'd never, ever done sales before. And I was just like, can I make some BD calls? And they just said, yeah, you just go for it. Like, I didn't really have too much training in that department, but the conversations that I had with the, DC managers and the warehousing managers went pretty well because I could relate to their position. I knew the pain that they were going through. And then it was essentially just learning the recruitment piece, which I picked up over a few weeks. So I think it's, very, very good idea if you're looking at getting into recruitment to go into an industry that you have a bit of a background in. For sure. It gives you a lot more confidence and
credibility
as well. It's a lot easier to talk to clients and go from there.
I think you can, I can counter that a little bit in just the fact that, like, when I started at Randstad in Australia, I was in their IT division going into the Victorian government, and I seriously knew nothing. Like, I'm a PE teacher in England doing IT recruitment. I didn't even have an email for work. Like, I wasn't a guy. This guy had a whiteboard up telling me what an application was versus infrastructure, and it was just going over my head. But the guy who started next to me had just spent 5 years in desktop support working within an IT environment, and he was just like, I thought he was a wizard. Like, this guy's going to be the best. Like, I felt so inferior. But then a few months later, and I was blowing him out of the water because I was naturally sales, but I'd learned what I needed to learn. I was asking good questions. I was inquisitive, and he went back to desktop support because he didn't fit. Like, so I think look, if I had known more about that, I think I'd have been even better. So I think it's a combination of the two. Anyway, in terms of your startup story, then, so you both joined. You're both in the same team. When did you decide it was going to be you two were going to launch H People? Tell me that story.
Yeah, I suppose for us, there's a few things that when I came into the previous business that were initially promised as well, starting up a new division from scratch. And then as things get further along the path, things don't sort of add up. And you start to question a few of the decisions or the direction that I feel like I felt like I might have a good idea of a different way to take this division or what might target a certain sort of client acquisition, and then you're sort of getting pushback from above. And at times, I felt that we had the right ideas and the right sort of source to the recipe for success. And it just so happened at that time where things weren't adding up and sort of becoming a little bit disengaged with the things at work that we saw an advert from Recruiter. I think we were one of their first inquiries. So had a bit of a chat to them, and obviously things sort of snowballed until we actually thought, like, hey, let's actually have a crack at this and move forward. And
so who out of the two of you said, hey mate, have you thought of this? Was there one of you that led it?
We were obviously we got really, really close at the previous company, and a few things weren't adding up. And like Jory mentioned, we wanted to go in a bit of a different direction, and we were getting pushback. So we were sort of thinking, we could do this better on our own. You know what I mean? So it was sort of a bit of a mutual joint decision that we could go down this avenue. I guess Jory probably actively looked into how we were going to make that a reality, because at that time, our payroll was hundreds of thousands of dollars a week. We had hundreds of temps out every week. And going out on your own, we had so many questions around, how we're going to get payroll funding, what CRM are we going to use? We've got no database, all that sort of stuff. So Jory sort of went down a bit of a rabbit hole, and then obviously reached out to the boys. We investigated a few different ways to be transparent that we could do it. We met with an investor who could have, funded some of our payroll, but wanted a cut of our business. And then, the model that we ended up going down was the ex-recruiter model, where, that we have a bit of a GP split at the end of each month, if you like.
And how long did it take you to go from that initial, we're going to do this, to doing it?
It probably would have been done a lot quicker, but there are obviously a few things at the previous company that was sort of going on. So for me to make the final decision to move on, it was probably best part of 6 months. I'd say 6 months to pluck up the courage to actually rip the Band-Aid off and go out on our own. But, almost bi-weekly conversations, trying to plan everything and get us across the line and those sorts of things. But it definitely wouldn't change it for the world now, that's for sure. I'm so glad and so grateful that we did make that decision.
And why did you go with H people? What does that mean?
We sat down with a pen and paper and or a whiteboard, and we just wrote down, because it's Jory, Humphreys, and Sam Hope. So we were like, right, we've got something in common here. Our last names both start with a H. And like the first one we come up with was H Consulting, which I'm really glad that we didn't go down that route, because it just sounds too official. And, especially because this is, 70% temp workforce. So we supply people, and essentially, just brainstorming different ideas, and we landed on H people, which
we had the double H, but it felt like that was a bit of a mouthful to get out when you're calling people. Imagine that is something straight off the cuff, H people.
Yeah, I like it. Simplicity wins. Simplicity wins. I think it's great. And so, why did you choose ex-recruiter then? What was it about those guys and their model that meant it felt right for you?
Yeah, I think for a couple of reasons, like sort of Sam touched on, we did go down a couple of different paths where we're like looking at an investor, which obviously wanted a stake of the business. Quite like the idea of the white label service that ex-recruiter were promising in the early days. And then as well, like both meeting with the guys at the time, got a good feel for both of them. And it was just the case of wanting to be around like-minded people and people that you feel that you could trust. And to this day, like still both are very close friends of ours.
Yeah, good guys.
We own 100% of the business as well through other avenues and other channels that we were looking into, franchise models, investor models who would wanted a cut of the business at the end of the day. The ex-recruiter model just meant essentially they were providing us a service. We owned 100% of the business. It's essentially like a contract agreement, if you like, based off tenure.
I think as well, like they took a bit of a punt on us as well. Like it's one thing to say what your numbers are and sort of presenting yourself when you're articulated. Initially, there was, I think we were their first temp-based partner, so everything was perm recruitment. So when you're looking at temp, there's a lot more risk involved. There's a lot more compliance. There's funding that you need to get sorted. So they took a big punt on us, and like they stood by us. They could have said no, which would have been the easy route for them at the time. So they did good by us in the early stages.
Their model is they don't charge you unless you bill, right? So you've got a yes, I can see that. I can see why that's really appealing at the beginning as well, because you're like, well, we don't pay unless we make any money, so let's crack on. We're all in it together, right? We're skin in the game.
Scaling as well, because as your payroll and your revenue and your temp numbers grow, there reaches a period in time where you need to scale from one person to two people in your payroll team, and then there's for the person taking on that risk and that liability, there's obviously going to be a period of higher operational expenses. But given the model that we have, percentage based off GP, it's essentially just a linear graph. So
you can literally put a line in your P&L. You can put a percentage line in your P&L, can't you? That just doesn't change.
We know exactly. We build this, they get that.
And I think along with obviously being really good guys and become quite close friends with them, it's the head noise that's probably the big thing for us. Is like if we can just focus on our billings and drive forward, like what's the time that it would have cost to manage that compliance with the back office. So I think there's a number of reasons, especially people like us have seen really good success using the model.
I never did recruitment like your recruit. I never did blue collar, like high volume stuff. My business partner, when we joined Randstad, I joined Randstad in Melbourne, and he joined Randstad Melbourne. But I got IT and he got education. Even though we were both teachers, he got in their early years education team, and it was like crazy volume of putting people out all over Victoria every single day. And so the pace he worked was completely different. I can imagine starting an agency like that, you'd need a lot more compliance and rigor and back office from day one. Whereas when you're putting in maybe a 1 or 2 contractors a month or a perm deal a month or whatever, it's not quite the same in terms of the amount of support you need. So talk us through then. So look, the headlines are pretty big from you guys. I did my research, we confirmed it off air. $25 million in turnover and inside 25 months. And then in the second full year, $1 million of EBITDA, which is pretty impressive, right? That's not common ground. So I want to get into that.
Yeah, definitely. So so probably on track for the 25 or close to for this year. Obviously it's not finished. Finished last full calendar year at 15.5 mil. And then the 1 mil in net after everything. So
if you accumulate year 1 and 2, it's 25 million.
Sorry, yeah, correct. Yes,
So
yes.
in 2 years, you did 25 million in total turnover, and then the second full year was $1 million in EBITDA, which I think is incredible. Now, my first question is, what did you set out for when you sat there with the guys, Declan and forget what's the second guy called it? Yeah, Blake. Yeah, when you sat with Declan and Blake, and they're like, "What are you going to do?" What did you say? Like, did you have that in your mind? Like, did you already know those numbers? Like, what were you saying?
No, we did have a bit of a business plan.
The lights have gone, everyone. The lights have gone out. It's just a bit of a time. Our in Australia.
So we did have a bit of a business plan for temp contract numbers, and a lot of the time we're measuring based on hours billed. So that was sort of our metrics that we're looking to hit. I think on memory, was it like 8 per month that we're looking for?
Yeah, our business plan set us to grow by a net positive of 8 temp contractors per month. Right. We had our back up against the wall. We had no income. We would start work at 5 o'clock in the morning and work until 11 p.m. at night. And we grew month on month on month by 16 net positive contractors month on month. So we had a pretty good start. So we were only without a salary for probably 10, 12 weeks tops. And then
where did you base yourself? Were you in an office?
Yeah, we actually worked out of the ex-recruiter office, which I think at the time, because blue collar recruitment's so different to most other things, like whether it's accounting and finance. And they're like, well, just come work out of our office. And you go into their office and everyone's sort of typing on they're just absolutely ripping it. And you just have so many sideways looks of like, he just said, what?
What do you mean you punched my client in the face? You know, we would have some wild conversations and everyone would just be spun around on their chairs. And then we just put them down and carry on working like bomb-proof. Nothing's happened.
It sounds great fun, though, I'll be honest.
It was. So yeah, we're very, very fortunate that they offered us a couple of desks in their office.
Yes. Did you have any personal commitments at that point in your life, like to go and work them kind of hours? Either you got any kids at that point or anything like that?
No, I had a 1-year-old and a pregnant missus.
Yeah. See that changes the lens, doesn't it? That changes everything. How the fuck did you manage that?
Oh mate, like she's an absolute hero. So shout out Belle. But yeah, it's just like Sam sort of said, like backs against the wall. There's nothing to fall back on. There's no money coming in. You just have to make it work at the end of the day. And like I just remember getting our first invoice was a perm invoice, and just remember seeing that come through. I was like, oh yeah, it's like fuck, this is actually working. And I think from so much activity, and like sort of Sam touched on, like we were just absolutely rinsing it, and like there was some deals that we pulled in, like for temp clients that probably weren't good deals at the time, but at the start it's just about getting revenue through the door. But it was also probably the best thing for us. We were very conscious that we didn't want to contact old clients from the previous business. We want to try to leave on good terms.
Good.
And it was the best thing for us, because it made us obviously grind, but also diversify our portfolio. So like we had so many more clients come on board, and like historically with businesses, we're having maybe 10, 15, 20 in one place. And now we're looking at 2s and 3s. And if one of those businesses goes down, another one might go up. So you're sort of not as exposed if a business does drop off. So that was a really big, like, I suppose it was really beneficial for us in the early days. But
you've genuinely not seen your 1-year-old at that level, right? So you're seeing them at the weekend, just on the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. That was it. So it was really difficult for us, like as a bit of a family, and again, like even like I've got he's just turned 2, and now she's pregnant with our 3rd. So like even the 2-year-old,
punishment, mate.
yeah, mate. So and then like we've obviously launched the business, and then it's just been all hell, like this been going hard. It was never a good time, and like you feel like I'm a share of his life as well.
What about you, Sam? Where were you at that point?
Had a mortgage, so I'd bought a house in Brisbane. I had 2 kids as well. So one was born in 2017, one 2019. So I had a young family as well.
Yeah.
And like Jory mentioned, you know, we both had the absolute backing from our wives that they knew that we could do it because we'd done it before. We built desks ourselves. We built a division at the previous company. So we knew that we had it in us to do it. We just needed to absolutely graft as hard as we could to bring in some clients, get some temps out, get some revenue coming in. And then we could make a bit of a clearer strategy about how we wanted to grow the business geographically and so on and so forth. So I think we always had fairly big ambitions. Like when we started, we just sort of looked, I guess, 3 years into the future. And I think we hit our 3-year goals by the first birthday. So then we had to sort of reevaluate everything.
Did you always see a business with headcount and teams? And because you two could have made some serious money if you just carried on cracking on the way you were in the first few months.
Sometimes I think about that. Yeah, I think so. And I think a lot of that's from, we were at Hayes, big business. We went to another company, obviously a boutique, but grew a sizable headcount there and in the team size. And I've always loved working with people and seeing other people succeed and helping coach and develop others. So I think both of us really like the idea of growing a team. What that eventually will be, I'm not too sure, but I think at the time was just like trying to make sure we keep the lights on. And then it gets to a point where we've got trigger events where we're very fortunate that we've worked with offshore for a number of years. So that was a really easy way for us to increase our headcount at H People without really diving into our overheads too much. And then in the first 6 months, it was myself and Sam. We had 3 offshore. And then we'll geared up and we had enough cash ready to hire 2 onshore consultants in the January.
February 2020.
Oh, February, yeah. February 2024. 6 months or 7 months after we launched.
So 7 months after you launched, you both brought someone offshore to support you. Is that the plan?
No. We actually started with 1 person offshore on day 1 because we'd worked offshore before. We really knew the value that what we needed to be doing was high value revenue generating tasks and bringing clients into the business. And we actually had somebody start offshore. So we had a little kitty of money that was to pay her wage. And
so how did you break down what she did then? Like how would you describe what she did versus what you did?
So the role for the offshore, what we've worked on is basically, I suppose you call it a resourcer. So her role was all candidate attraction. So that would be if we're advertising on a seat, a lot of our roles are fairly low skill. So we do have quite a high number of applications. So she will call through, or anyone would know, they would call through those applications or any means of the database and then qualify based on a pre-registration call, then book it into our calendars in the afternoons. We'd knock through 6-10 interviews each per day or as many as she could sort of register. And then after we've interviewed, this person's good, this person's no good, the people who are good should get compliant, so reference checking, all license, documentation, etc. And then we're ready to present that candidate or a bit of a short list to our clients. So
in the world that you operate, were you working roles or were you working like consistent volume of the same people? So was she trying to just build pools of like warehouse leaders or whatever, rather than that one role for that one company? It's more like go and build me a fucking database of them. Is that kind of the I'm trying to think. It can work in a different way if you've got, like you say, accounting and finance. It's going to be you can still get that person to work, but it will be different, right? So in a blue collar setting.
Yeah, it's like temp and perm are completely different. You know what I mean? Temp's all about volume screening, and then your perm's more around sort of, I guess, more technical headhunting sort of positions and whatnot. Yeah, so that's sort of how we separate, and we do have a firm division now that's run by Fergus, and he's supported by a perm resource. So they just work very similar but different pace, if you like.
I always said if you can get, because I was a contract recruiter, not a temp recruiter, but a contract recruiter. So it was probably the middle ground of you guys. Like you're running around like blasting it. Perm recruiters are sat there falling asleep, in my opinion, at times, and we were in the middle. And I used to say, like, you could see a contract recruiter in our business by the way they walked. Like, we walked quicker. We talked quicker. And I'm like, yeah. But I was like, maybe we're just fucking full of anxiety. I don't know. But I was like, what about, I used to say, if I can get the depth of a perm consultant, if I can act in the speed that I am, but with the same depth and the same precision, then I'm going to be better than the rest. And equally, like my counterpart, I got Anthony Webster, that we nearly launched a company together, and that's been on the show, that why we didn't. But he was the same on the other side. He was like the fastest perm recruiter I'd ever met. He was like, he walked and he taught, and I was like, I can't be doing with that really slow paced nature, but I don't want like a fast idiot either. Like that's not the thing I want. I want like quality and quantity if I can have it. Like that's kind of the goal, but it's not easy. In your world then, because I've got on record, I think from your other podcast, like you were making like $50 to $100 a day, you two, to try and keep up the volume, right? While she's doing the other stuff. At what point does that become untenable for a founder? If you want to grow and develop a business and teams, because you can just keep doing that and make serious money. How did you manage to then translate that into becoming a team in a business? Because that's got to be different.
Yeah. So like our philosophy was always saturated geography. Get that to a certain base, and then like what sort of happened, it might be north side of Brisbane, south side of Brisbane, establish two sort of desks that might be leading on the client, and then we can hire an onshore person to then take over that, get the clients, and then they can really drive on with their new territory, and then we'd go to another location. But like you sort of touched on, like it was a really big adjustment from doing absolutely everything. So definitely like the calling, the billing, all the interviewing, absolutely everything, and then having to delegate that away or get someone else to take on that responsibility.
For a long time, we always focused on new business development and growing new desks. So saturate an area so that every single business that was a target client had been contacted by us. They were listed in our CRM into lists or folders. And then essentially we would just proactively reverse market candidates to them people. We'd get our temp numbers up to a certain quantity or a certain GP level. Then we would hire someone onshore.
What was that? Out of interest, what were those metrics? Like, what were you trying to hit? Did you have like actual data?
Was 1,500 billable hours as the metric.
1,500 billable hours in what period of time?
A week. Per week.
A week.
Okay.
Yeah. How many people is that?
Like 40. About, so everyone, like it's about 32 hours as an average worker across the business.
So once you got 40 people out consistently, and what sort of length of contracts do you do? Is it like daily stuff or is it monthly?
No, it's like long-term temp to perm. So like think of a warehouse might be looking for an operator, and then they will find like they'd get someone off us on a temp basis, and that person might stay with them for 3 to 6 months, and then eventually they'll transition perm. So there is a life cycle to the perm, to the temp recruitment for the most part.
Yeah.
Generally, it's
not 6-month period.
We don't do day
You're
hire.
not doing like daily temp because that's just different.
We shy away from that stuff. It's too high touch and low profit.
Yeah. So you get to 40 runners out with the help of a VA or whatever you call them, resourcer in Philippines.
My professional.
And then how do you find, what's your kind of profile for the person that comes in to take that onshore role?
Yeah, well, we're very fortunate. We've got a lot of referrals actually, and like I think that's from us being very open and like trying to talk to good people that are ahead of this. So early days, we've got a couple of referrals for people that were looking to get into recruitment. And then as their profile's grown, especially online, we've had senior recruiters or experienced recruiters reaching out to us and then having a bit of a chat. Ideally, if they've come from that blue collar background or engineering or something that's in our world, manufacturing and logistics is an ideal thing for us to bring on as a recruiter. But we have trained rookie recruiters.
Yeah, I quite like training rookie recruiters. It just takes a lot of time and input and effort from one of us for probably 2 to 3 months to get them up and running. And we've done it a number of times, but you know, I guess Jory and I made a conscious effort when we started the business that we were going to be quite vocal on LinkedIn and social media platforms, and just the compounding effect of people watching our story. We now have people sort of reaching out to us, asking to have a chat and potentially about an opportunity working with H people, which is an awesome position to be in. It's cool.
If you're going to hire someone offshore, make sure you pick the right partner. Today's sponsor, Remote Recruitment, are my partner of choice. And the reason is they put every single South African hire through a 15-point vetting system. They run a bespoke trial built with you so you see what they're like before they even enter your business. They do the final interview after proof of performance. And there's a free 12-month replacement if they're not right. So there's no like seeing random CVs and loads of interviews. It's just a really seamless process that is stringent, it's organized, and it works. And if they don't work it out, look, they'll replace it really, really quick. So you don't need to worry about national insurance, NI, setting up companies. They manage the whole piece without you worrying. Now, if you're a RAG listener, you get 5% off your first hire. You get a free remote hiring roadmap, and they've got an ROI calculator that you can look at back office and business development roles and see the impact they can have on your business. If you'd like to access this amazing offer, go to www.remoterecruitment.co.uk/RAG. Brisbane's got quite a strong construction sort of blue collar environment, right? So there's a decent talent pool of people there. So yes. Would you take someone who's not experienced in that side of recruitment, like say somebody who's maybe done accounting and finance or whatever? Would you look at that kind of profile, or have you got enough talent that you can headhunt from ones that have already got it?
Yeah, I think it probably depends on the person as well. Like, and we touched on it off air, that it doesn't necessarily need to have that industry experience, and it's having that sales acumen and making sure that you got the culture fit as well. Like, we're trying to breed a very high performance base here in the business, and I much prefer find a recruiter that's a high performer that might have worked in another industry as opposed to someone that's a mediocre performer that's got only a industry, because you can't teach hard work and effort.
Yeah, I got you. So talk me through this blend then of how the business grows over the first couple of years, the blend between onshore and offshore and the ratios, because I think you talked, is it 8 onshore did you say 14 offshore? Was that the number? 13. So have you got talk me through that ratio and how are you growing this?
Yeah, so we find the best ratio within our business is 1 resourcer to 1 onshore consultant. A lot of people that run VAs tend to just delegate certain tasks to them and not really integrate them into the business like they're an actual employee. We change that up. So we have geographical areas and desks, and on each desk there's 1 onshore consultant supported by 1 offshore resourcer. So they work in absolute partnership. We have daily huddles every single morning, and they share wins from yesterday, priorities for today, challenges we're facing, and so on and so forth. They have joint targets to hit. So the target for our consultant is to hit 50,000 GP every 4 weeks. When we hit 50,000 GP every 4 weeks, that's where we actually want to support our consultants to grow further. So a lot of agencies will just let you continue to build those sort of numbers and eventually potentially burn yourself out. But when our consultants reach 50,000 every 4 weeks, that's where we say, right, what do you want to do next? Like, do you have the capability to continue to grow and integrate another remote recruiter from the Philippines into your desk? So it would be a 1 onshore to 2 offshore scenario. That's where we find that you get the consultant earns the most money, the net profit to the business is the best. But obviously in a blue collar environment, depending on how many accounts that desk is looking after, sometimes we're looking at supporting with an onshore account manager to work underneath that consultant. They'll go into a team manager position, and then account manager supported by offshore. So that's the structure that we've built. As the business has evolved as well, we run a contractor book with hundreds of temps. We have multiple people starting work every single week. So we've generated new roles within the business. Monday, Tuesday were big timesheet days, and we realized that our consultants were spending sometimes 1 or 2 days chasing candidates to submit timesheets, chasing clients to approve timesheets. So we actually made a brand new offshore position. We call it Naomi's our office manager. She looks after all new contractor portal onboarding. So she makes sure that on Friday everyone's logged into the portal. She contacts everyone on Friday and Sunday to make sure they submit their timesheet. She follows up via phone. And what that does is just removed more noise from our consultants so that they can spend their time doing revenue generating activities.
I like it. What's been the biggest challenge with the model? It can't all be perfect. I'm not having that. And I've hired my whole business I've took my whole business out in South Africa and I've loved it, right? But there's definitely downsides to it. So what would you say in your side is?
I think with when we're looking at offshore is one of the big challenges is making sure that your team buys into the model as well. And making sure that your team obviously treat them the way that they would treat an onshore worker as well. So that's probably a big challenge, is how we're going to reinforce the positive culture. As well as one of the, some of the challenges has been of, I want you to do this, and then there's no engagement. And you can if you've got an offshore team, as you would have an onshore, if you're giving that person a task at the start of the day or the start of the week, and then you're not checking in with them, you're not having a conversation, they're obviously going to become disengaged pretty quickly. So that's something that we have previously struggled with as well, and trying to get the team, or even at times us when you get super busy, is how do we make sure that we're still giving the love or showing support to the offshore team. But a big thing for us is we've tried to celebrate the culture piece as much as possible. So often we were celebrating the Australian team, where the Philippines team were missing out. So again, they're feeling like they're left alone. They're not as important as the Australian team. So a new initiative that we brought in is we do like an end of period wrap. So we do an end of period wrap with our AU team, but we also provide the offshore team with lunches on the same day.
Yeah.
We celebrate if we hit a big glory goal here in the AU team. We also celebrate in the Philippines team. We get them all flying together to go on Airbnb and have a bit of a celebration as well. So those sorts of initiatives have gone a long way. Like Sam and I have been to the Philippines a couple of times now and met with our team in person, which is a very powerful experience. So those sorts of things are different to what your generic person would be if they've got their typical remote professional VA. They're not doing those sort of 1%ers and sort of going above and beyond.
Do you all operate in the office in Brisbane?
Yes.
Because that's the bit that I'm curious about. Because if I look at my business model, going into the pandemic, we had 15 people in East London in an office, right? Day one, the pandemic shuts. 3 days in, me and Amma, we got our office got broken into. So they took all of our equipment, which at the time we did a lot of video production for businesses. So we were kind of like, we need to adapt here quite quick. And then we realized we liked it. Like we were like, I'm really enjoying not getting on a train in the morning. Like I don't want to do this again. And I really enjoyed not being peppered all the time in between things. Like I can plug into Zoom and answer your questions, but in between you're not getting me right. And I enjoyed that. So selfishly, I enjoyed it. And then we decided to go, we're not taking the office again. We cut the lease. We never went back. And then so when we were like, well, could we hire in, I was like, I'm moving back to Manchester. And he was like, oh, well, I'm in London, but I might go to he lives in the Cotswolds. But we were like, if we're going to hire in Derby, for example, why wouldn't we hire international in Durban? That's what my mentor at the time said. So we started in South Africa. And because we were all remote, and we're still all remote, if you're on Zoom now, you could be in London, Hertfordshire, Portugal, India. It doesn't make a fucking difference. We're all the same. How do you manage that? Because if you're all sat having banter and you're all like fucking Brizzy Fridays beers, mate, and then they're all sat remotely in Manila or wherever they are, El Nido, how do you make that happen?
Yeah, I think that's the unfortunate thing with being remote. And I've always been an office body. I've also got small kids that like to interrupt me when I'm in my office. But we love coming into the office. We do have the work from home day for the team, so we're pretty flexible with when there is working from home arrangements for the whole guys. But I don't think you can fully get that culture piece if you're not together. There is that bit of disconnect. Like there's obviously a disconnect when you do a video interview compared to an in-person interview. Yeah. There is that slight disconnect there. So we can only do so much. Like we have daily meetings, like Sam sort of touched on, with the Philippines team. We do goal setting with them every month. So we try to be, as a company, as much as possible as time permits.
Just to pause on that though. So would you all be in your office, all on your individual laptops talking as a group, or would you have them on like some VC while you're in a room? How would you do the same?
Yeah. We've got a boardroom here, so they'll be on the TV, all the heads up there, and then we're obviously crowded around a boardroom table. But
are they all remote in the Philippines? Or they're not sat together in the Philippines? Yeah.
No. They all work from home.
Yeah. On a Wednesday, we have work from home Wednesday. So generally,
Yeah.
there's a lot of faces on the screen. Everyone's on the screen. Everyone's working.
Is everyone in Manila? Or have you got them
No.
all over? No.
And there's people absolutely dotted all over the place in really quite remote provinces and sort of everywhere. But yeah,
would it not be an option to have created H people in Manila and have an office and try and like just purely replicate what you're doing?
It's funny you mentioned that because we love the office. Like, how good would it be if we could do this for our team? So when we went over there, we hired an office in Manila, got all the team in there, and we were sort of working out and having a bit of a chat to them. And like, the traffic is so bad.
Yeah. I don't know why anyone would drive over there. It honestly takes
The roads are mental.
Yeah, it's a couple of kilometers.
We interviewed a lady this morning, and she lives in Manila, and her office is in Manila. And from her house, it takes her 2 hours there, 2 hours back. So she's 4 hours commuting per day because the requirement is in their BPO, they must work from an office.
Yeah. And that's why we're getting a lot of success as well. Like to give the example that Jory just did, she is really interested in joining Wingman Recruitment and working for an Australian client because she's requested to go into the office 3 days a week at her current role. So she would rather take a remote work from home position with us, where she can actually work from home 5 days a week and I guess lose that 4 hours travel time in the traffic on a daily basis 3 times a week to have an opportunity to work with an Australian client.
That makes perfect sense. And look, one of the guys who's on the show recently, Alex Hashash, I don't know if you listen to it, he's launched global capability in Kenya, in Nairobi. And he's like, he's done it the other way. So he's created a service center. It's one office. He's bringing people in, but people will commute an hour and a half, 2 hours to get to that office because they'll take the opportunity to work for a British or an American or an Aussie company.
Sure.
It comes with its, you're limited then, aren't you? You are limited by, whereas you've just gone, doesn't matter where you are, as long as you're in the Philippines. I'm from it. Right. I mean, I've worked with some Philippines staff as well. I've had some really good experience. I've had some difficult communication at times with some that didn't work out as well internally. How have you found that in terms of, like, because you guys are on the phone, I imagine it's a male-dominated sector in Brisbane. Like, some of the conversations you have will be wild. Like, again, I'm generalizing, but like a 25-year-old female in Manila, how are they going to relate to the bloke who's, John in Brisbane who's talking about smacking his boss? Like, what's the, is it the same? Does it give the same H people culture is what I'm trying to say? And how does that work?
Yeah, like, good question. And like, I suppose on my side is, as long as that person is knowledgeable and they can provide some value, I don't think it matters if there's an accent there. And like, they obviously try to assimilate to the Australian culture as much as possible. And like, they'll be sending text messages, "G'day mate, what's happening?" Like,
they'll have to go like Australian lingo training at the start.
The lingo. But like, if they're talking to it, like one of our best recruiters for truck drivers, notoriously very racist as well, like, not generalizing again, but she was an absolute weapon. She spoke their language, she added value, she was direct with their communication, made dozens and dozens of placements because she's a high performer. High performers are high perform, it doesn't matter where it is. Yeah. They can communicate, articulate, and have something of value that the other person wants to receive. I don't think they care about the accent.
And and they're consistent and listen, and like you say, even if the first impression isn't great, they'll win it over through consistency, right?
Absolutely. Good relationships with the candidates as well over time. Like, there's no difference to anyone onshore.
So what impact did having this model have on making $1 million in EBITDA in your second year?
Huge. So like, I think because we've been able to provide a very quick and efficient service, if it was just me and Sam battling it out and we didn't have any offshore support, we would have only made half the amount of placements. So we would have been able to only convert half the amount of clients. So in theory, we would have only grown half at the speed because we can only do so much and get the candidates. And it's just like they've enabled us to deliver a better service to our candidates and our clients because they've been able to take a lot of the heavy lifting for the candidate sourcing, admin, and compliance. Yeah. That in turn is being able that we can do more billings, create more placements, build more relationships, bring on more clients. And that's just a compounding effect. When we had 1 in the early days and then we went to 3, now we've got 12 or 13. You can imagine the impact that it's still having today.
Yeah. Got you. And in terms of cost versus Australia versus Philippines, like without going into the exact numbers, what percentage are we talking savings on putting your resources offshore?
Yeah, so I reckon you could probably get, like, if you're looking at a and this is dependent on what task you're needing or you're looking for. But if you've got an onshore recruiter, or like maybe you look at an onshore recruiter at say 70K, you'd be able to get 2 people in the Philippines that would do a better job for sure. So I think you're looking at 2 for 1 minimum.
2 for 1. Great ratio. Yeah. And if we talk about Wingman, when did you decide this was going to be a business idea? Like, because you could just keep growing this one entity, scale it, but you've had an idea to split. So what happened there?
Sure. So we went to an Aaron Sansoni event. I'm not sure if you're aware of who he is, but he builds multiple businesses. So we went to like a bit of a 4-day masterclass and sat down, and it's all about thinking about your core business and businesses that you can sort of leverage and build off of your main company. And one of them, we'd been helping recruiters and recruitment agency owners find Filipino resources and integrate this same model for the last sort of couple of years.
Just people anyway.
Yeah, just people that we know for ex-recruiter and people that we've met through LinkedIn and sort of on our journey. So we'd been helping people, and we knew that there was a fairly large gap in the market, specifically in recruitment and niche into the offshore space. We, Jory and I had a bit of a chat, and we thought, we'll start an offshoring company that niches just into recruitment. There's a lot of generic VA companies out there that claim to be specialists in recruitment that don't really handle a lot of the integration and the implementation into the business too well. So we started a company called Our People, which we were going to trade, and we were going to start off our own back.
That does make sense, doesn't it? Our People,
remote people, yeah. We're really big believers in finding mentors and people that have sort of walked the walk that you're about to go on, and might be able to help point you in the right direction and steer you away from any mistakes that they've made that cost them a lot of time and money and those sorts of things. So into our journey, probably only a few weeks, registered the business name, started trading with ourselves at H People. And Jory actually bumped into the CEO of an offshore company called Wingman Group. They've been established for 4 years. They specialize predominantly in the real estate space. So they actually help real estate companies in property management and sales space integrate remote professionals into their business. So
it's a recruitment company into the real estate sector.
Into the real estate space, specifically in offshoring. So Jory bumped into him at the gym. We propositioned them to take them out for breakfast, just to essentially come with a little black book full of questions and hopefully leave with more knowledge than we entered the breakfast with. And we got on with the boys really, really well. We explained to them exactly what our plan to do was to change the perception of offshoring in the recruitment industry, exactly how they had done in the real estate space. And, we got on with them guys really, really well. And, one conversation led to another. And eventually they actually propositioned us and said, look, guys, we've always had a bit of a goal of starting a recruitment division of Wingman. And you guys have the secret sauce, the blueprint behind how to actually integrate them and get it humming like a well-oiled machine. Why don't we go into this as a bit of a joint venture? We've got the processes and the system to, they've got 1,200 offshore across 700 clients of theirs. So they've got the machine in the background that can obviously deliver on the service. And then we've got the knowledge on the front end to integrate them into recruitment companies in a
similar to what you did before, though, isn't it? If you think about like you were the warehouse operative, it's the same thing again now.
Yeah, it's essentially the same thing again. Yeah, so we've actually developed a foundational training academy which runs for 8 business days. So all of the remote recruiters that we actually headhunt and find that have, these recruiters have anywhere between 2 to 15 years experience. So they are absolute experts in their own right. But generally they've been working for UK, European and USA clients. So we actually run an 8-day foundational training academy where all of the remote recruiters run through before we place them into a client's business. And they come out of that with, Australian market knowledge, CRM, ATS, specific experience from the client's ATS systems. We use a platform called Seek Talent Search. I'm not sure if that's in the UK as well or not, but that's a an Australia APAC sort of platform that we use very, very heavily over here. So they come out of that 8-day training, foundational training academy, and it's not so much of a burden on the recruitment company to get them up to speed. Or, that was one thing that we found that was a bit of a burden for us when we were bringing someone new in. So that alleviates a lot of that, a lot of that initial training that would take away, a consult.
There's certain bits of IP as well that we've developed here at H People, which roll out like candidate trackers, different types of like way to monitor activity, attendance, BD calls, interview to placement ratios, so all that sort of thing. So we're slowly rolling those bits.
Is there a bit about educating the client on how to manage them as well? Like, because it's not just about the candidate, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a key piece as well.
Yeah.
And like Sam touched on, like the integration piece of having that education piece for the client of like, this is how they get the best out of your offshore worker. This is the meeting cadences you need to work towards. Here's some tracking sheets. Here's how we're going to set them, how we'll set them up for success as well.
So now you're full time on it, Sam?
I'm full time on Wingman recruitment. Yeah, when we went into that, we sort of realized that it was probably a bit difficult to try and be doing two have responsibilities at another business at the same time. So we were at the point where we needed to put in a level of middle management, I guess, between myself and Jory and the consultants. So we built out a division manager, middle level management. Everyone reports into Jory now, which has freed my time up to focus 100% on supporting recruitment companies build offshore teams.
How long have you been doing that?
Since October.
And how's it gone?
Yeah, it's going really well. We partnered with Greg Savage this year. So Greg Savage is an ambassador of ours. We've had a number of clients sign up. We've got a number of remote professionals integrated into their businesses already. The plan for our first year in business, or by the end of this financial year, is we want to have 300 remote recruiters integrated into Australian recruitment companies. And we've got, huge ambitions and goal for the business. Like I can definitely see this being a global business and, replicating the success that the Wingman Group's had in the real estate space into the recruitment industry.
What's the price point? What are you charging? How do you monetize that?
For sure. So essentially it varies on the experience of the remote professional. So from a charge rate perspective, we're talking anywhere from around about 15 AUD per hour up to 20 plus, depending on the remote recruiter that is successful in the position.
Are you charging an upfront search fee or a perm fee as well?
There's nothing up front. So we do have an onboarding cost, and that essentially covers our overheads for the 8-day foundational training academy. That's an initial investment of 2,000 AUD to cover that, and then it's just the monthly invoices for the hourly rate of the remote.
It's actually quite similar to the business H People model, really, isn't it? It's a temp business that you know how to do, and I think it's really clever, guys. I know loads of these businesses, right? And, Remote Recruitment are one of my sponsors on this show. They are exclusively South African, so there's no competition with what you're doing. And I think they're brilliant. Like, they've done an amazing job for my clients. The guys at Untapped have done a good job globally. There's more popping up in Australia. There's US-based businesses in LATAM. This market is humming now. But my question for you is, how do you think AI is going to disrupt it? Because that's the question. The only thing I see on the horizon for the offshore model is the AI. Our agent's going to replace the offshore quite quick, where the quality of an agent will be much cheaper and as good, if not better, than your offshore team.
I think like the future of the recruitment industry, like recruitment is a very emotional time in somebody's life. A lot of these people are leaving jobs that they might have been comfortable in for 10 plus years. And the last thing they want to do is talk to a robot and, accepting job offers. So I think the landscape's going to change a lot. AI is going to come in a lot more. Automation is going to come in a lot more. But the future of recruitment is going to be your onshore consultant supported by an offshore remote recruiter. And that remote recruiter and the onshore are going to be utilizing AI and automation to the best of their ability. Yeah. So everything's just going to become a lot more efficient. But in recruitment, it's so human driven. Like we've trialed, chatbots that immediately call applicants that apply to our job boards, and humans just haven't quite caught up with it yet. Only 22% of people actually said that they wanted to talk to a robot and answer our questions. So, that's still, 78% of the candidates that apply that haven't been screened. So someone
I think in
needs to do
certain
it.
sectors, though, I think like in technology markets, I think that'll be much higher than in construction markets. Like I think a software developer might actually prefer to talk to a bot than a 22-year-old spiky-haired recruiter that knows fuck all about technology. Do you know what I mean? Like there's an argument. I'm sick of getting called by these wide boys. I'd actually rather talk to an agent. Whereas in your world, I think you're right. They're probably not using LinkedIn. They probably got a Facebook page and they prefer to get on the blower with someone who's relatable. So, but I do think that there's if we underestimate the power of an agent, I think you'll be able to create an agent that can talk to Aussie John, and you'll be able to create an agent that'll talk to, a deep technologist like that. I think it'll happen in the next couple of years. So I think we can't underestimate the speed of technological advancement compared to.
Sure.
We all want to talk to humans. I fucking hope that stays true because I love this sector. Like I'm not saying I want it to change, but my gut says it will.
Yeah,
my gut says it
I think
will.
The landscape's going to change a lot over the next 24 months. A lot's going to change. A lot's going to come in. It feels like at the moment there's too much happening, if you like, and there's too many AI options coming about that I guess haven't been proven or tested in the market yet. So that's obviously going to be refined. The front runners are going to come out with the ones that are actually working. But my prediction.
It's why I did what you've done. So I've basically very similar to you. I've leveraged I've got a LinkedIn training program, right, we did 2.8 million last year on our LinkedIn training globally. And we're like, it's fucking working. The model works. Clients are happy, like all over the world. So I'm like, but that's just one platform. And I'm like, what's the other platform that every fucking agency has? And it's ChatGPT. So and I'm looking at the market and thinking, everyone's buying these bullshit AI tools that actually make no money. Yet the things so Jordan is my partner on it, is the founder of Atlas, right? Jordan Schlossberg is in the top 1% of AI users on the planet. He built Atlas off 1.5 billion open AI credits, right? So he's another level to the guys who are playing around building these clay tables. Like he knows stuff on another level. And when I'm working one-on-one with him through this sponsorship, I'm like, every time I take one of these demos from an AI tool, which looks amazing, and I show Jordan, he starts laughing. And he's like, and he literally just shares his screen, puts in a prompt, and shows me how you can do it for 20 quid a month ChatGPT license. And I'm like, so people are being sold based on what they don't know. And I'm not saying AI tools aren't going to keep coming out. There's millions of them. But for the average recruiter, you can get so much commercial benefit from one ChatGPT license. And the industry right now is all playing an efficiency game. Everyone's saving 5 minutes here, improving email quality there. Whereas, so I've done what you've done. I've got the leverage, I've got the market, I know the model. I'm not the AI expert. I've been shown from Jordan. I know enough now. So he's become me in the AI training, and we've exploded. Like we sold out our first cohort of AI training in 6 days. It was just like mental.
That's so cool. Wow.
Yeah, and the feedback from that has been, so now we're running LinkedIn and ChatGPT training on the same cycle. And we got 1,000 leads a month coming in globally for those two products. But, the danger for people like me and you is to go, what else could I do? What else could I do? And then you're like, and then you do 4 things averagely well. Whereas I'd rather do, the reason we did so well with the LinkedIn training is we cut everything else off. At one point we were building people's content. We had a retained business. We did website development. We did all these different marketing and assets. And this little LinkedIn training was making more money than all of them. So I invested in a guy in LA, flew out to LA. The first thing he said is shut the fucking lockdown.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're telling, I had 39 people, and 28 of them were in South Africa. And we're doing 2.2 million in revenue and 500K in EBITDA, right? And I'm like, it's a cool business. I'm not even working that ridiculously hard. Go to LA, and he goes, we did 280,000 profit in the LinkedIn training and 220 in the agency. And there was 33 people in the agency, and there was like six of us doing that. And he went, shut that down, double down on that. And I'm like, so the next year we made 25 redundancies. It was painful. 2023, we let 25 people go. We shut all of our products off. And then last year, 2.8 million, 55% EBITDA. And we're like, it worked. But now I'm like, I'll be honest, launching the AI training, and when you might have gone through this, I'm like, am I going to ruin this by going there? Did you go through that? Did any of you, did you think like maybe we take the eye off the ball of what's building, that the golden goose?
Probably why I think that's why we did the bit of the restructure. So like if we're both focusing on both things, then something's going to fall over. So Sam give 100% of his attention to wingmen, and I'm doing 100% of my attention to the H people. Obviously we have regular meetings ourselves and sort of fill each other in of what's happening in each sort of division. But I think if we can both keep 100% attention on at least one of the entities each, then we should be pushing forward 100%.
So my final question, we've gone a bit longer than I thought, but I've loved it. So, and the internet hasn't. So for anyone wondering, I've got a builder outside my studio that is playing around, and at any point you could knock the data cable so we could get cut off, but we're doing all right so far. And my final question is, where are you going? Like, what's the goal? Where are you heading for both businesses? I'll start with you, Jory, the traditional business. What's the goal now? And then we'll flip to Sam.
Yeah, I think like the goals evolved over time. Like if you asked me last year at the start of the year when things were humming and we were looking at expanding, I think the goal was making sure that we have an office in each individual state and really go for a massive national expansion. Now it's making sure that we're providing a great service here in Brisbane. Obviously, we've got different areas that we're focusing in Melbourne and also Sydney. But I think the goal over the next 3 to 5 years is see if we can really take this even further. I'd like us to, or for me as a leader, to continue to be relevant in the space and to provide some leadership to the team that we're growing. I'd love to have a GM in the business that's really overseeing the actual operation. I could look at something a little bit more strategic, but who knows what that looks like over the next couple of years. I think that's very fortunate to be on this journey and loves every minute of it. I probably don't spend enough time reflecting on the past, and it's always been pushing forward. And this year's is sort of taking back and sort of slowing down a little bit and sort of appreciating the journey of where it's come. So I don't want to get 3 years down the line and be like, oh shit, what happened again? Just trying to enjoy the journey as much as possible, which I think is so important.
What about you, Sam?
Goal for Wingman is we want to be the global leader in recruitment offshoring. The goal that we've got is to have 1,000 offshore in the next 3 years. And a big part of that is going to be integrating some integration packages. So for, I guess, smaller recruitment companies that might not have too much structure within their business, it would be actually someone from Wingman coming into their business and helping them set some real structured systems and processes so that they can get the best out of their offshore remote recruiter, rather than just
it's a consultancy rather than a recruitment.
Exactly right. Yeah. Advise into the business, helping them integrate some, I guess, IP systems processes so that the offshore recruiter knows exactly what they're going to be doing, and the onshore person knows exactly what they're going to be doing.
And how old are you guys, just out of interest?
37 soon.
Right. Yeah. So a few years younger than me. So I'm 40 this year. But I do think there's a period. I mean, I've got 2 step kids who are 11 and 12, and I've got a daughter that's 2.5. So I've kind of got I'm in a different gap than you two. But what I'd say this year is I'm really just reflecting on my life. I don't know. There's something about the late 30s where you think, what am I doing it all for? Like, what? You just keep running and running and running, and then you hit this milestone, and you're like, I know now in my life what's important. It's about how I earn my money is almost as much as how much, and I want to be inspired by my daily. I want to enjoy the people I'm around. Like, I want to do the things I love doing each day, and be around great people. Like, that's kind of what I've decided. So, like, what about you guys? Are you feeling that at the age you're at with the kids and the businesses? And
yeah, I think definitely that sort of moment hit this year, especially. And like Sam and I take a month off each year. So Sam does December, I do January typically. And this year I, for the first time ever, completely shut everything down, laptop down, phone away, don't call me, on MIA. And it's really trying to, what's that?
How do you do that?
Oh mate,
how do you do a whole month?
It was difficult for the first week or so. You get Jonesy to pick up the phone again.
Forwards his emails and his phones to me and closes his laptop. I do the same with us, Ember. So it's been great having a business partner that you can lean on in that respect. I know a lot of solo recruitment, leaders that you can't ever, and I'm not saying ever, but it's difficult to close the laptop and not even think about it or be concerned. But yeah, it's great to.
I think that's why we're so fortunate, and like having a business partner is so powerful, especially if it's the right one. That you can actually trust someone to sort of sit back and know that everything's going to be okay when you get back on deck.
Are there certain things though that like you do that he can't do? For example, like, is there certain crossovers where there's certain stuff you're just gonna have to put on ice because they can't do? For example, like I do the podcast, so my business partner wouldn't just step in and be the host of the show. It'd be weird. So we do share a lot, but there's certain things like financially and operationally he does that I don't do, and brand and external focus is me. So do you have any of those crossovers as well?
Yeah, so I do more of the operationals and financials for H people. So there's certain things that I could essentially, like if we're looking at like pays or whatever it might be, that I can sort of like make sure
Pre-schedule.
Yeah, like schedule everything. And then a bit of a click of a button or say, Sam, log in here and do this. But for the most part, we've been pretty fortunate that being able to get through a month.
For sure.
I love it. I'm phoning Amma straight after this. I'm like, right, which one are you having? I love it.
But I think the objective is to enjoy the journey. If you've got a goal in mind, if you're like, when I'm 50, I want to have X amount of millions in the bank and I want to be living there. When you get there, you might not be happy. So I think it's really important to enjoy the journey. Yes, as a business owner, we work a lot of hours, but one of my sayings is work hard, play hard. Yes, we work big hours during the week, but we also spend a lot of time with our families, camping and going on holidays and traveling the world as well. So it's sort of swings and roundabouts, and we're just very fortunate to have partners that allow us the ability to be able to do that.
I've also got to be honest, like I've never been to Brisbane, and that's the plan next year is when I come out to Australia. I know. I think I fucked it. Go to Melbourne. I'm going to be honest. Like I loved the city, beautiful place, really really cool. But at 24, 25, when you're from the UK, the weather's not that much better. Like it's so European, and you're like, I could be at home here. Like I'm sat in like a cafe having a coffee, and I'm like, I might as well go. That's why we went to London. We're like, London's arguably better than Melbourne, so fuck it, let's go and be closer to home. Whereas I'm like, if I'd moved to somewhere like Brisbane, where it's culturally, it's like night and day from back home. The weather's amazing. Like, what is it like running a business and having a lifestyle in Brisbane day to day?
I still, honestly, I've lived in Australia now for the last 14 years, and I still wake up every day and I can't believe how fortunate I am to live in Brisbane. I've traveled a fair bit of the world. Brisbane is hands down my favorite place in the world. Like it's such a strange feeling. Like I went to the Philippines for 3 weeks to catch up with my parents because my immediate family still, my parents and they still live in the UK.
Yeah.
And after 3 weeks being in the Philippines, I was so excited to go home and be back in Brisbane and at my house.
Which would never happen if you were heading back to the UK.
Hey, you get the holiday blues. It's a standard feeling, isn't it? When you get home from your couple of weeks in Spain or whatever, and you're like, fuck, I've got to go back home now. But it's literally the opposite. Living in Brisbane, so I'd highly recommend anyone that hasn't been coming over. Sean, you're always welcome, mate. We'll take you Fraser.
I'll be pitched up in your office. I'll be pitched up I'll do what you did to Ex-Recruiter. I'll just dominate the room.
Right.
I'm looking forward to it. The plan is, because I'm thinking the only time I can really come is around August time. And if I took, let's say I did the whole month, which I could do, there's nowhere. I mean, I'm not going to Melbourne and Sydney again because I went in April and the weather was terrible. So is it still pretty nice there in August?
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's still good. Like, you'd be able to put like Gold Coast, Sunny Coast. You go further north up to Cairns and so forth. Like Queensland's a massive state.
We've got a subtropical climate here, so we more so have like wet season, dry season. So in the winter, it is cracking blue skies every single day. Still gets up to about 25, 28 degrees in the middle of winter in the daytime. And if you head north about 1,600 kilometers, it's 32 degrees in the middle of winter. And you probably wouldn't go there in summer because it's dank and humid.
So it's actually a really good time to come and see that side of Australia that I've never done, right?
Yeah. We'll show you a good time.
Yeah.
All right. Put it in 2027 August. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. All right. Guys, have a I just want to say well done. Like, I think you really I don't know you well, right? We've only just met, but you come across as really, really normal, down to earth people that are relatable. And I think people will love that from this episode. And but you're building a really cool business. You're building profit. You're doing a good thing. You're putting jobs into a difficult country with difficult economies. and you're enjoying the journey. It's inspirational. If anyone's listening, obviously, if they're listening and want to talk to you about Wingman, brilliant. But if they just want to pick your brains on anything, from the UK or wherever they're based, is that okay if they just message you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was we've all, sort of Sam touched on earlier, always want to, and the recruitment industry has given us so much, and we've been fortunate to link up with so many amazing people that have given us their time. So if there's anything we can do in return, pay it forward. Absolutely, pay it forward. Sure.
Okay, we'll do that. So guys, thanks so much. I'm definitely going to get you back on in 12 months time or so to see how this Wingman and development of H people is going. But in the meantime, you look after yourselves and well done.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks again for listening to today's episode of the RAG podcast. If you haven't already, please do subscribe wherever you listen to this show. As the more subscribers we get, the more people will listen and the more recruitment owners we can help. As a recruitment founder, you must know that things are changing. AI is everywhere. Cold outreach is getting harder, and job boards, well, they're not what they used to be. But personally, despite the negativity, I believe the future is the greatest opportunity of our lifetime in recruitment, because for the first time ever, a founder with 5 recruiters with a clear niche and the right systems can build the kind of influence, reach, and profitability that used to take 500 recruiters and a global office network. The agencies that are winning right now aren't necessarily the biggest, but they are the most visible, the most trusted, and the ones building inbound demand. At Hoxo, we're working with clients who are running multiple 6 and 7 figures in net profit, outperforming the negative noise and headlines. So, to explain what these guys are doing, I've created a brand new free masterclass video for RAG listeners. In this video, it's less than 10 minutes long. I'm going to show you what these businesses are doing differently from the rest. So the link's in the description. Fill in the form, watch the video, and see exactly how this system that these clients are using could work for your agency. Good luck.